All right, we live again with another episode of me and Max, man. Just into our Russian Jewish relations, United States, Western, however we try to mix a lot up in there. But um this is Max again. I'm sure y'all seeing him on his show, seeing him on my show, Max. How you
Pleasure,
doing?
pleasure to
Pleasure.
be here. Blessed to be here. Always honored to be on the show with you. One of my favorite things that I could look forward to throughout the week. And I've been under the weather and glad to be back. Glad to be here with you, Rob. Thank you.
Nice. I'm glad you're here. Likewise, likewise. So we've been, exchanging messages, us two, and you said some powerful stuff to me. You sent me a message and you said, I didn't even know about the whole massacre thing that happened in Russia. But we had a show where we are talking about how the images and the vaults got released in Russia. And then you sent me something about a massacre that happened in Russia. And you said this could be retaliation from what was happening with the images being released. Can we get a little bit into that? You know, and exactly what happened. You know,
Yeah, it's one of those things that could be speculation, but could be coincidence. But there's a lot of speculation, and coincidence just happens to fall in place, and it doesn't exactly jive right. So I think it's more aligned to cause and effect, kind of
right,
like what we were alluding to. So, and it's been tit for tat, whether it's Russia versus USA, all the various proxy wars and designations that they've had throughout the years. All it
right,
does is paint a poor picture of both countries at this point, in my opinion, with so much other things going on in the world and in
right,
the individual countries themselves. There comes a point to where you just have to stop and just take into account that with the one life that we've all got to live, we ought to try to make the best of the situation as
right,
opposed to continuing to go on the same path of retaliatory actions and taking out enemies and perceived enemies and imaginary enemies, all for what? Showmanship, for entertainment, for what? Where's the end game at this point? It makes
right, right,
it, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense because there is no rational explanation or reasoning behind what you're doing. And it doesn't matter whether or not you can justify it to yourself morally and according to the court of public opinion.
right,
It's just not right. So
right. So do you consider that it was you feel that it was retaliation from what's going on in Russia by them exposing the vaults and things like that? Are you leaning on that side of it that you feel like that was the case of that situation?
I think that I hate to use the word iceberg and rabbit hole because it's not what it is. This information is freely available to anybody that wants to go in and explore it. But if you
Right,
were given your entire life and told one thing, and
right.
then all of a sudden something else is revealed to you, you're either going to be a skeptic, which a lot of people are,
Yeah.
or you're going to be less of a skeptic and more inclined to believe if you sit there and just think about geographically where the Bible takes place. If we're going to use the Bible, the Quran, it happens to be throughout
Right.
North Africa. If you want to call it the Middle East, that's fine too. We're talking all about the same place. But when you look at it and you take a look at whose interests are most, who's got the most to lose, the same
Right.
person that has the most right now in their pockets, and it's going to be the churches. I'd say the Catholic Church
Mm.
being the biggest one right now because the information and whatever they have stored in their Vatican vaults,
Yeah,
they've got
they got
off.
vaults too.
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
Mhm.
and they're very secretive, very private to me. And I don't want to put down religion on anybody's part, but they're
Right.
more of a cult than anything else. They
Yeah.
practice the old pagan ways. They go away from a lot of the teachings that are in the good book, and they like to their narrative on how things are to be and what's Canaan and what's not Canaan, the power of the papacy, etc. Same reason why the Eastern Orthodox Church decided to split with them, because there were disagreements. And the disagreements haven't really gone away. They're still the same disagreements there were 2,000 years ago. Did Jesus walk around for, 33 years and make it through that entire time without committing sin? It's possible,
I
sure.
think so.
But then he also lived a life to where his people, the Jewish people, they were known to procreate like crazy. Jesus had 6 siblings.
Right.
So that in itself is telling. So would it be impossible that Russia is revealing one thing at a time, starting with some pictures to where the image of Jesus wasn't what people have been taught for the last, we'll call it, 6, 700 years, maybe
Yeah,
less.
600, 700 years. Yeah, a lot of people say that. I was talking to some people that say, yeah, like, like we kind of already knew that. Like this just verified it, but it was. Have you ever heard of this before? Even this? Would you ever? Did you ever hear of? Yeah, like Jesus was black, but the mainstream media and everybody said, had pictures and said different. Were you thinking of that too?
It's a well-known fact. I
Right,
mean, depending on where you are in the world, you're gonna hear different things. Here in the West, it's a lot more convenient with the population of 60% Caucasian, we'll call them.
right,
So 60% of this country is composed of Caucasian people, and it's gone up and down, but primarily the majority is Caucasian. Therefore, it would make more sense to pay homage, worship, whatever you want to call it, to someone that looks more like them.
gotcha. Yeah, that
I don't
makes sense.
agree with that. I don't agree with that, but I could see
Right,
why they do, why they want to push that agenda. Now, anybody that knows about history can look back and say that there is a better chance that he was of a darker skin based on the region demographically of where he was from. And if you look at
right,
that region now, it hasn't changed much. There are people that have more melanin in their skin because they have more exposure to the sunlight because they are darker in nature.
right,
So, you
right.
know, to some people, they still they'll never believe it.
Yeah,
You
now this has been in the Western news. It has been people that have been saying, "Oh, this isn't true. The scriptures aren't, the images aren't real." They've been saying a lot of that, but that's just how it is in the Western world. But um I got a question for you. I'm gonna bring up Candace Owens, and the Candace Owens thing has been she's been fired recently for um I guess speaking and challenging the ways of the Jewish community, right? So, just been saying some things, but I'm gonna play a clip in a minute, but I want to get your opinion on this. It was a question about gangs. Do you feel that there were any Jewish gangs? How you feel about that?
absolutely 100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Jewish gangs, Irish gangs,
All kind
Italian
of gangs,
gangs,
right? Everybody had a gang, right? It was
everybody
gangs
had a
in every
gang.
culture. Yeah.
And,
Gotcha.
and there's still gangs that, as of today, the gangs have just become different. They've evolved. The gangs, excuse me, or the mafia, if you want to call them that, in their early stages upon the, you know, early course of the United States, they were formed not to so much, muscle people around, but for protection. You know, just like a lot of the gangs that were formed in the '60s and the '70s, they were formed not as, entities to go out and do harm and violence, but they were meant to protect their areas and their neighborhoods and try to keep them safe. And then, you get other variables and factors in there to where that gets corrupted, if you want to say, and turns into something totally different, which has nothing to do with protection at that point. And then you got
Right.
then you got real mobs, real
Yeah.
gangs, and real gangsters. So
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You definitely got that. So it's good. I mean, this was one of the rabbis admitted that he said it was gangs, but I didn't know of, the gangs in New York, the Jewish gangs. If you would have asked me before hearing this interview with Candace Owens and him, I wouldn't have thought that the Jewish, like the gangs in New York of the, like some of the mobs and stuff that I'll play a clip here, but I was shocked to understand that, they have that into the culture, and it was just an eye opener for me. But you claim that pretty much this is not new to you, so you understand this, but a lot of people don't. So, um, another thing you talked about how in Russia they let Africans come to Russia and go to school, and they actually get treated better than the citizens that are in Russia. Can you explain this? Because you are from the Soviet Union, born
mhm,
and raised a little bit. So
yeah.
you can attest more to this, but explain how we were speaking about that, how that worked out, how the Africans were getting treated.
Throughout history, and this goes back to the Russian Empire, Imperial Russia, throughout the Soviet Union, and even till present day, kind of like we were speaking off air.
Right.
The culture that Africa has, whether we're talking about Uganda or we're talking about Ethiopia, it makes no difference. You got a lot of different countries in Africa, and the Soviet Union, Russia, whatever you want to call them, they've always been intrigued and fascinated by that culture. So they encouraged and still do to this day people from Africa, people of color, people of different nationalities, whether it be Africa, India, makes no difference. You got to
Right.
understand that we're, between Mongolia and China right there. So we're right in the mix of other cultures that don't necessarily look like what we look like as far as color goes. And
Right.
in the Soviet Union, there's roughly 70,000 African Americans, and basically, what happens is they would take African Americans and they would bring them over to Russia. They would, help with their
Or
education.
Africans, hold on. Africans or African Americans?
Africans, I
African.
apologize. I
Okay, okay.
apologize.
Yeah, yeah. Just making
And
sure. Yeah.
you got me. Yeah,
Yeah.
Africans from Africa, and they would go to school and get an education, go to the universities. My mother, like I was telling you, she was in the University of Moscow, one of the biggest
Right.
ones as a chemical engineer, but nearly half the class were students of color from Africa. And there, for a small portion of time, there was a jealousy from the actual Russian natives because of the treatment that the Africans were getting was better than the treatment that the natives were getting. So there was a little bit of jealousy there, but
Mm,
it's something that the Russian people have always embraced, and the Russian culture in general. We're not conquerors. We've never been conquerors. We've pretty much
exactly.
kept to ourselves. We're not colonizers like the British, like the Spanish, like the
Right.
French, to where they've got
Yeah.
colonies or had colonies all throughout and under their influence. And that's not to say that by getting an education in Russia and then going back to your native country isn't going to be some form of influence, but you're still getting the education. They don't expect you to
Mhm.
go over there and, decide to throw a coup and be a ruler. That's not necessarily the way it works. But even to this day, the relationships between people in Russia, and if you look at the relationships that Russia has now, Putin, good friends with people in India, got connections, Syria, Iran, Persia, whatever you want to call them, Chinese. Korean. We generally get along with everybody. We don't want to make enemies. Now, does that
Right.
mean everybody's going to like us? No, no, not at all. But I think that it would be, you know, when you look at the United States, we've only been desegregated for a short amount of time, less than 100 years. I think, what, 60, 65 years roughly. After the end of World War II, we still had Jim Crow. We had a lot of things going on. So we're in a country now that was born on racism and segregation. They spent so much energy, time, and money to make separate restrooms, separate buses, separate bathrooms, separate drinking fountains, separate. And for what? What was the point of any of that nonsense? All that did was teach another generation that we got to continue this until
Yeah.
somebody finally stepped up and decided none of this makes any sense. We're all
Right.
people in the same race and we're all humans.
Right.
I
No,
think
no, no. I agree. I agree. I actually had a I did a I did a show with somebody, and we were talking about, because a lot of people are familiar with, they only are familiar with, some black leaders that got, as far as like, killed because they were out of bounds with trying to unite. And then I brought up some where there were some white leaders that got killed for trying to unite. And we came to the conclusion that it doesn't matter really what color you is. The goal is to stop you from trying to unite with everybody, because you're going to know your true power. So if we're at the top and we can stop anybody that's trying to really unite everybody, it's going to be better for us at the top, because anytime we get everybody united, they're going to realize how powerful they are, you know? So I really believe that um, division is where power aligns, And I think the race and all of that we seen in those days, it made things a lot more powerful because, you can hide. You know what I mean? People can hide when it's a lot of division. It's hard to hide when everybody's united. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And I think that depending on how people are brought up, how people are raised, demographically, culturally, even monetarily, growing up here in the United States, I don't have a lot of recollection about, living in the Soviet Union, but I could still speak, read, write just as fluent as my English. But the
Wow.
one thing that I do recall is that when we came to the United States and we finally made roots here in Kansas City, we weren't put up in any kind of mansion. They didn't do anything special for us. They did help us find, a place to put a roof over our head. But just like
Right.
anybody else, when you're at the bottom of the barrel, you're going to be in an area that isn't the greatest, and you're going to
Right.
be with people that are all going to be similar. So basically, what I'm saying is when I came here, color meant nothing because
Right.
we're there with white, black, Hispanic, Asian, and we were all the same because we were all poor. None of us had any more than the other. And we all had the same willingness and desire to want to do better. And in order for that to happen, it wasn't about so much an opportunity coming our way. It was about making that opportunity for yourself and demonstrating that working hard does pay off. I can't
Right.
see that, you know, that hasn't evolved the way that it should have. I don't think it's doesn't work that way anymore. You can be the hardest worker all your life and still not have anything. But
Yeah. 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 It's just the time that it is now. But, in the days, anybody who's 60, 70 years old, you could have worked back then in those times. You could have bought a house for 10,000, $20,000, right now it's worth 400,000. So back then, that influx, that we had, I think is now being, it's just being used up. So it's not as, we haven't seen that big influx of the dollar or the value of our assets like back in those days when it started. So, like you said, it's very it's harder on Americans now coming up, but it's still a blessing to be here. I'll tell you that. I mean, I
It
don't,
is.
it is a blessing to be here. I mean, we can find things to say to complain about, but it's a lot of good here too. It's a lot of things that, you can do anywhere, some bad and some good, right? But I probably wouldn't want to be anywhere else. I mean, I would love to travel and see other countries. I haven't seen enough to see, but as far as right now, you know what I mean. I'm a
Yeah.
patriot. I'm a
Me and you.
patriot. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's nothing, and I think that's good. I think we need more patriots. I think we need to be able to speak up about, you know, I was just doing taxes, like I said, and that was one of the
Yeah.
reasons I laid on this. Yeah, you got that. That's the same look I was doing for like an
Yeah.
hour. I'm like, ah. And the thing about taxes is it doesn't bother me to pay taxes. I understand
Right.
what it's supposed to do, how it's supposed to help us as a nation as a whole, build
Right.
better roads, build better schools, develop new technologies, etc. What I don't like is knowing that that money that I just paid to the government is going somewhere that it doesn't need to be. And I have absolutely no control over that whatsoever.
Exactly. Can you imagine paying thousands of dollars and then you see our political leaders and how ruthless and how just frivolous they are with money? I mean, it should make you, I mean,
It
it irks me, you know what I
it,
mean?
it makes me mad. It's one of the few things that actually upset me, knowing
Right,
that I've got a country, and there again, love America. I'm not knocking
right.
America. America's got problems though, just like
It's the
anybody
people.
else.
Yeah, yeah.
But at the same time, why is a country that has trillions and trillions of dollars in debt feel that they have the right to give me a credit score? I don't know anybody trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars. I'm not in debt like
Right,
that. What makes you think you can give me a credit score? Mm, I don't know how that works, but I don't think it's right. Then the
right.
other thing of it is like I said, this political system we have, it works perfect. It's working exactly the way it's designed to work, and
Yeah,
it's not in the best interest of the people. And in case anybody hasn't figured this out yet, th- it's working exactly the way it's supposed to between how the media projects things and then force feeds it through the televisions and the radios, not letting you know the whole truth and just giving you bits and pieces about things. And
right.
it's not right. But then
No,
you can get on, you know, YouTube, find a channel like this and other channels that'll speak to things that these guys don't even want to address, like they don't exist. It's
right. Yeah. Like you said, it's a lot of diversion going on the West. The important things don't get as talked about as the distractions, and I guess that's just part of the nature of the beast. But we speaking about taxes. Um, speaking about taxes, um, I'm gonna talk to you about like you was talking about where this money going. Um, the taxes and how our money is going. Do you believe? I know you said about the roads and pavement. A lot of people feel that taxes is wrong, and there's some people that I talk to. They'll feel like certain people shouldn't get taxed because I know that Indians, right? They don't have to pay taxes, correct?
yes and no.
Right. Go ahead.
So so here's the thing about that. A lot of people think that you go on an Indian reservation, and Indian reservations are historically known for
Not
gambling.
paying tax. Yeah, gambling. Yeah.
Gambling. So they got the casinos on the reservations.
Right.
And you would think that since it's on Indian land and it's their casino, that they would get 100% of that profit, right?
Right.
Nope. They pay, I'll tell you exactly. And I looked this up like a couple days ago. I don't gamble or go to
Oh, wow.
casinos or anything, but I was thinking, I'm like, I wonder how much they make. Oh, they bring in pretty good revenue, right? And I was
Right.
thinking, let me check it out. And then I found out that they have to
Wow.
give. I'm going to find out exactly.
So they're being taxed.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Let's get that out the way. But while you get that, you probably pull it up right now. You got it?
Yeah. So this is what they did. Tribal casinos represent a significant revenue stream for a number of federally recognized tribes. Tribal casinos are likewise free from U.S. taxes, but for the right to operate, that's where they get them. Tribal casinos pay gaming exclusivity fees based on the profits. Based on the profits. So
Right.
the
So they're
more
getting
money they make, the more money they got to give.
right. Taxing is not that's pretty much what taxes is, basically what
That's
you're
good.
saying.
They just called it something else. But
Just
yeah,
switch it
they still
around,
have to give. They still
Right, right, right. There are some people though that are saying black people shouldn't pay taxes. I feel
Terrence,
like it would huh?
I think it was Terrence Howard. He said something to that effect not that long
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah, he was saying that, black people shouldn't pay taxes. And then some people feel like nobody should pay tax. I know women like taxes is like stealing. All right. Um, how do you feel on taxes? I know you were saying, hey man, I don't mind paying taxes. I mean, it's for the roads, but how do you feel about certain ethnic groups saying that, hey man, I shouldn't have to pay taxes?
I don't think that I understand what he said, and
Right.
I understand the context and way that he presented it. I don't necessarily agree or disagree with it because I could say the same thing about what happened to the Japanese during World War II in internment camps for the duration of the war, and they
Right.
were paid reparations.
Mm,
So it, I think that the United States is very picky on who they want to have money and who they don't want to have money.
exactly. I agree with that. I agree with that.
If
Yeah.
that wasn't the case, then we would still have Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Right. Yeah. 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 Right. It's just how the game goes. That's just how the cookie crumbles. But I get you. I don't think taxes, me personally, I think, we can put fees up for certain things to help certain, but I feel like they can use taxes to be able to do other things, just like we talked about with the Indian reservation, where they name it something else and say, "Oh, it's not taxes, but it's a fees on the profit." So it's like, yeah, this is always, it reminds me of needing a lawyer to read a contract. It's like you don't speak the language, but you need somebody to read over this to make sure you're not getting screwed. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. No,
So it's like,
and they're getting screwed regardless. I mean, they got
right.
first the 250 years they spent trying to eliminate and kill the Indians by moving them out west, by giving them smallpox blankets, by doing anything and everything they possibly could to eliminate, eradicate, and completely as though they never even existed. It wouldn't have made any difference. But here we are in today's age, and it's there's no difference right now. Instead of being Native Americans, what they're doing is there's a war against the poor, there's a war against the middle class. They're trying to get rid of all that, but instead of getting rid of it in a way of taking money and putting it into investing in, let's say, the homeless population and making them able to stand on their own 2 feet and getting help they need, I think that looks a lot better than tent cities on the side of the road. People with will work for food. A
Right.
lady that's got her 2 or 3 kids out there with her on the side of the road. It's
Mm.
it's irresponsible how they do what they do with money. It's
Mhm.
like I said, I understand paying taxes, but I don't agree with how the money's allocated, who decides what is spent, and then at the same time not knowing if it's actually done.
Right. Right.
And then
Definitely.
money in general, we're looking at money that is there's so much money printed right now that it's pretty much useless. We're right at that gray area there to where there's so much out there. And you can only raise interest rates so much to try to make it valuable or keep its
Right.
value to where if you mess up a little bit right now, it's gonna fall apart. So
Wow. Yeah. I agree. I agree. I agree. Um, yeah, now I had this clip. I know we went on to the topic of taxes and stuff like that. But Candace Owens has been getting a lot of she's been getting a lot of criticism from the black community, from the Jewish community. It's been kind of like all over for her, you know what I mean? Um, what's your take? Give me a quick take before I play this clip on what's your take on Candace Owens?
I like Candace Owens.
Oh wow.
I really respect what Candace Owens has to say. It's always generally well thought through. She's prepared to make the argument in whatever defense is needed, whether it's affirmative or negative, and whatever statement it may be.
Right.
She's never said anything that I've heard that has upset me as an individual, as a Jewish person,
Right.
as anything. I you know a lot of people don't like to hear the truth. It's a powerful thing, and
Yeah,
it
you're
hits
right.
hard. It
It's
hits.
hard. It's hard. It's painful to some people because you've been told something for so long, and now you got somebody that's questioning it, and it's just like you don't want to deal with it. You just want to be set in your ways. And like you said, I think I don't I like a lot of what Candace was saying. I don't pretty much, but I can't even say that for anybody. Like I hate to even say that. I can't say because it's some things that I don't, but I mean, how am I supposed to just act like I supposed to just agree with everything everybody says? You know what I mean? Like, come on.
You
That's we live in
can,
the
but
world.
are you being genuine to yourself if you do that?
Yeah, like, come on. But I think she really hit some points and said some things that makes me say, this makes sense. And she comes off to me as a very smart female. So I feel that the knowledge is there, the intelligence is there. So it sells me more, hearing her speak her points. But I'm gonna get into this point right now. I just want to get your opinion. I give my opinion for the viewers, and we're gonna see what they got to say. Let's check it out.
All right.
Many Jewish people have said, but sure, I guess you're saying that now it's a trope. But I just want to be clear that many Jewish people have said this in many interviews within the last 50 years. Okay.
As I said, there's
now,
a whole book.
I do want to press pause on that and ask you a question. Is it possible for Jewish people to form a gang, full stop?
Define gang.
To form a gang.
I mean, let me phrase that because I don't even need to ask. I don't even need to ask that question.
So I'm gonna let it play, but did you hear how he had to stop himself from saying, I don't mean to ask that question? Now, me, okay, I'm a firm believer of asking questions, but I can understand the way you answer a question, even if you change it up, and I understand I'm going to give him his right to change it up. But my point is on that is this is exactly what we were talking about of being challenged on something. I think it's so much that we don't want to admit because I'm hard on my community about violence, about doing this, my own. Like I want to hold us accountable. But in this situation, it made me feel like he wanted to diverse. He wanted to, kind of take away from what could be an issue, and trying to make it as no, it's not, define gang technically, but that's my opinion. Okay, from that, I'm gonna let them play out and hear it. But from you, just from that little short segment, what do you think? Because when I asked you, Max, you were straightforward. You told me, yeah, man, it's gangs. It was, you were straightforward. And that's what I respect about you. But I'm saying what this guy just did, does that alarm you? Does that, because me, it would kind of alarm me. You know what I mean? I
He
mean,
understands the question real good, so he understands that if he doesn't answer it right, and there is a right and a wrong answer to it, what he
right,
doesn't want to admit to is any type of criminal organization. Now, that's not what she asked, though. She asked
right,
about gangs, but at the same time, unless she has a definition of what you want to call a gang, then that's kind of going to be open for debate. Now, if we want to universally use gang and associated with a criminal organization, then he's not going to admit to it. But
right.
if you use the verbiage in a way that sounds more like a community organization, if that makes
You get
sense.
me? Right. So that was just telling to me, and I'm glad that you
It,
peeped that.
it's semantics. It's all it is. He knows exactly what she's saying. She knows exactly what she's asking. He knows that if she asks him about diamonds and how they get into the country
Right.
and dealings of that and how it happens and how the grading happens and why it's just such a coincidence that the jewelers happen to be Jewish, uh, you might have some interesting things
Wow.
to reveal about that.
Right. Wow. Wow. That was interesting. I'm gonna let him go on for a little bit. I just wanted to before we have another talk, but let him finish. Let me give him his just due.
The answer is, of course, there's because there were Jewish gangs in New
Okay.
York.
Okay.
Go back
Yes,
and
of
look at
course.
that.
Common sense that Jewish people can form a gang, Black people can form a gang. Gangs exist, will always exist. Jewish gangs have existed and will always exist. Like, worldwide, gangs happen. How absurd it is to say that if you think that there is a gang that is operating, to even suggest that there might be a person in the that is automatically a trope. That would mean it would be impossible for us to illustrate the gang existing. As soon as you say it's a trope and magically you can't talk about it, I gave examples of multiple people in Hollywood. Okay, we're talking about from Dave Chappelle to Kanye West to Cat Williams to other artists that are Christian that have said that there is some sort of a gang, full stop, that is operating in Hollywood. I then gave an example of a list of exact names that Michael Jackson said were operating as a gang. Rabbi Shmuley was among that list of people.
Okay, so that's it. That's a little clip that I get. They had the Michael Jackson quote up there. But this rabbi, you were talking about the jeweler, you were talking about that Candace Owens got fired from SNL, was it?
MSN? Or
MSN?
from
Saturday
the,
Night Live, was it? What was it?
it's, not Saturday night,
Not Saturday Night Live. It was Daily News, Daily
yeah,
Wire.
the Daily Wire.
Daily Wire. Yeah, the Daily Wire. Do you think it had anything to do with this, or do you think, like, what do you because she came off as really asking him the questions, and he didn't seem as smooth answering them. It just, she's very sophisticated. It just seemed like how she was asking him, it kind of put him in a bad situation, a bad light, a bad look in my eyes. What do you think? I don't know if you've seen that interview. I'm just showing a clip. I didn't see the whole thing. I just seen some clips. But what do you think about that? Candace Owens being kicked out of Daily Wire.
I think it's a two-part kind of question or answer. I think
Right.
if we go back maybe a couple weeks, we talked about it, and I mentioned to you that the Jews here in America, they're very powerful. They control a lot of things. Hollywood would be one of those. All your major movie studios,
Right.
every one of them,
Wow.
all of them.
Right.
So, a lot of influence, a lot of power when it comes to that. So, if that's the gang that she's referring to, then it makes a lot of sense. And the reason that the rabbi doesn't want to say anything about it is because A, he knows it's true, and B, he knows that the things that they're bad people. I don't have anything good to say about them
Right.
because they use their power, they use their money, they use their influence in ways that help nobody but themselves in their own deprived, sick ways.
Right.
So,
And we got it's a lot of nationalities that do that. But like how you're saying it, it makes people we feel more confident when it can be said. It's the fact that it's people that won't even want to admit it and just want to make it seem like a ghost in the sky that we can't see or we don't know about. But it's being said, we understand that people in every culture, in every race, we got these kind of apples. So it's nothing wrong with it. Just by you being able to speak about it, it's gonna make people feel more comfortable, I think. And then we can get to, the root of a problem, But I think you hit it right on. But go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
no, not at all. And I think the same thing goes to in the music industry. Whether it be Jerry Heller in the 80s and 90s with NWA and Eazy-E,
Right.
Jimmy Levine, the Jews got their hands in Hollywood. They have for
I'm so glad
decades.
you said that. I'm so glad you mentioned that up because I've been reading and I've been hearing, like you said, with the NWA, Jimmy Iovine, and rap. Growing up, for some reason, I was a big Ice Cube fan.
Mhm.
All right, big Ice Cube fan. But then, as I'm getting older, I heard someone say that the NWA was the start of the violence in the Black community. And when I had to think about it, I'm like, that really changed the hip hop session. It kind of changed hip hop in the Black community with that kind of attitude, with that kind of destruction. And it was a lot of violence, fighting. It was, and now to see where it has gone now, I'm totally ashamed of the music that comes out of our community, to be honest with you. I'm ashamed of it. It's like, oh my gosh. I guess it's when you know better, you just want to do better. So it's like me understanding that I kind of took a back seat. I'm not really sure if Ice Cube knew what he was doing. I don't want to hold him accountable for it, but I kind of feel like because I preach this on my channel all the time. I feel like that there are people that to take the money and fame, they will do it. They will do whatever for the money and fame and not care about the morals and the principles, So, what do you think about that?
I think that if we go back to NWA before they
Right.
broke up, one of the main reasons they broke up was because Ice Cube believed that Jerry Heller was basically pimping out the group and not paying them enough money. The money
Right.
wasn't there for what they were doing, and the albums they were putting out, they were getting pennies on the dollar for. And Ice Cube bet on himself that he can do better and make more money. And I think that he was right on that portion of it to where he has become, he's been in movies, he still produces, he still makes music.
Right.
And for the most part, I don't know that I could think of anything that Ice Cube has done throughout his career that has ever really put him in a negative light. And I'm just thinking back to really anything
Right.
that, you know, O'Shea Jackson convicted of. No, it doesn't. I don't recall anything that he's done in order to make himself look bad. And if anything, it reflects the same with his children because they become and are also becoming successful and not necessarily riding off the coattails of their dad's popularity and his image and success either.
Got you. So you're saying that you don't believe Ice Cube took the deal. You believe he just did everything the right way? Is that's what you because there's some people that believe that he kind of was, he had some backdoor dealings with Hollywood, you know?
I think he did. I think he
Think he
absolutely
did?
did.
Yeah.
But like I said, that's why he's got movies. He's been in Are We There Yet? How much longer
Right.
before we get there? Kids movies. He's been in adult movies. When I say adult movies, I don't mean like, Triple
Mm,
X or anything, but like the movie Anaconda with, foul language, things like that.
right,
He's been very prevalent in industry, whether it's music, whether it's film, and right
right,
now he's got the big three, which is the Fast
right. And he's been going at the NBA as far as saying, "Hey, right." So I'm just hearing what the people are saying, and I want to question it myself because I'm a big fan of Cube.
Yeah,
To me, in my heart, no, honestly, he was one of the guys that I felt was the genuine one. He was the one that I felt like would just stand on business and principles. You know what I mean?
I think so.
Yeah,
And
like, but
and I don't think he sold his soul or made a
right,
deal with the devil or anything like that. I just think there was an opportunity that was presented to him. And when you look at the current situation, and if you even had to make two lists, here's what I can have going for me, and this is what I got going on for me right now. You don't really see anything getting better on this side, but this list, man, possibilities are endless. But I got to
right,
bet on myself, and I got to, take that chance, that leap of faith, whatever you want to call it. And I give him props and give him all the credit in the world for being able to say goodbye to NWA, brand himself as Ice Cube, and
right,
from this day forward, I mean, he's Ice Cube.
right. You're right. I can't knock him for making decisions. You know what I mean? And we don't know his, at heart, because I mean, he tries to help people, but I don't want to be that guy too. I don't want to be that guy that, has to challenge people's decisions to get them into a better place. You know what I mean? Like, w- did he have to do anything, or did he, he didn't seem like he sold his soul to me neither, but I'm not in his shoes to be able to judge him. So, I can't
I
feel
mean,
like,
did
yeah,
did did his music change? No, because when he came out with his first solo album, America's Most Wanted, with 3 Ks in it,
yeah,
I mean, obviously that's pointing out that the KKK, which is, to my knowledge, still a predominantly white hate organization,
yeah,
and it was a dope ass album. Then it came, Death Certificate. So the music that he was putting out was still dope music. It was good music with
right.
good lyrics, good hooks. I mean, I love Ice Cube. I can't say anything bad about Ice Cube. I still listen to Ice Cube just
To
as
this
much as I
day.
did back in the day.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I love Ice Cube. It's just, I
The
don't want
slight
to.
connection, I mean, to me,
Yeah,
it's like Ice Cube is just he's just great. That's just
he's
great.
just great. He was just one of those guys that I felt like was just genuine. He's going to do what's right. He's not going to make a deal with the devil, pretty much. That's just how I looked at Ice Cube, but
He
like you
never
said,
got involved in all the, well, not seriously involved with all the nonsense between like Suge Knight,
Right.
Tupac. He wasn't in any on all. He
He
didn't want
wasn't
any.
in all of that. Yeah.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
No, that's not business. That's just no. He never
Yeah.
got involved with any of that nonsense. Still successful.
Yep. But he was harsh on the Jewish community. He was harsh on the Hollywood of the Jewish community at one point in time. He was saying some things like, you know, which, kind of made me feel like he wouldn't, take the deal. But he was one of those that Kanye West said he actually looked up to. Kanye West kind of put him into the, like I looked up to Ice Cube doing this, you know what I mean? Talking about this kind of thing. So it's funny to hear that you still listen to Ice Cube as Ice Cube fan. That's cool because I'm a big Ice Cube fan.
A
But
lot of
we
times,
got on
you listen to rap and listen. I still listen to a lot of old school rap like Nas. And when they refer to
right,
things, make comments about Jews. Generally, they're doing it in my opinion. They're not being disrespectful because the way they're making Jews sound is like people with diamonds, with money, with all kinds of means. So they're not necessarily putting Jews in a bad light. So
right. And
unless
we got to
unless
understand. Yeah, and we got to understand, even if we're not talking like you can't, there's Jewish people that have no idea what's going on. They're not a part of robbing people and doing none of that. And when we try to mix the two, it kind of gets, like you said, it kind of gets to where it's not making sense. You have to be like you were accurate. You said the ones that are in Hollywood, you got your people that are pulling some strings. They're specific, you know, gangs and organizations that's going on, just like with anybody else. It's like you go into the black community and saying all of these people are killing people. You know what I mean? All of these people are robbing people. It'll be crazy to think that it's different. You know, it's a group of people that's doing things, and just like it is with the Jewish community. Because I got friends, Wayne Shapiro, I got a lot of friends that they're not on anything of taking advantage of anybody.
no.
So it kind of gets thrown in between to where we kind of like mixing everybody up, and I don't think that's where it gets wrong. And I think that's where Kanye went wrong. Like, you got to be able to put a name, you got to be able to make sure that you are hitting at the right people, because we're all people at the end of the day, and you don't want to just throw everybody in the group of doing something, because that ain't true, in my opinion.
Oh, I agree. It's easy for a lot of people, not me necessarily, but to hear what whether it's Kanye or Kyrie Irving saying things about Jews that make no sense at all, or giving props to people like Hitler for absolutely no reason. I don't, get mad at people like that. I just feel sorry for them that they're misinformed and nobody's been able to get through to them that the things that they're saying are correct. 'Cause I
Right.
don't honestly believe that half the things that they actually say that they believe. I think a lot of it's sensationalism, and I, I think that people of color have more in common with Jewish people than they realize. We both
Right.
know what it's like to be persecuted. We both know what it's like to be hated. We both know
Mhm.
what it's like to be excluded. The only difference is the Jewish people, unless we're wearing our little yarmulkes and we look like we're Jewish, we get thrown in the same, just white. That's fine. Whatever. Doesn't bother me.
Right.
I don't care. Until somebody uses how many times have you heard somebody say Jew you down?
Very little. You know what
Really?
I mean? Yeah, I mean, maybe it's me, but I don't that's not a common that's being used. You know what I mean? I mean, I've heard like in the Michael Jackson song, I heard him say that and they highlight that, but I don't hear that like it's a regular, Now when I went to New York, when I was in New York, I've heard it a lot more. You know what I mean?
Oh
I
yeah.
th I think in the New York state, in the upstate, it was more, but I mean down south, it's not a it's not a highly, used slang word, at all. But I hear people talk about it, but that's disrespectful. You saying to people who are Jewish, it's disrespectful to them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's disrespectful because it's not accurate. It just depicts us as being cheap, and
right,
that's not true.
right,
Who doesn't? I don't. You can be Jewish, you can be Christian, you can be Catholic, you can be Muslim, white, black, green, purple. Doesn't make any difference. You don't want to get the best deal on something. You don't
right,
want the lowest price you can pay on something. What does that have to do with being Jewish? That has to
right,
do with trying to find the best deal. That
right.
so it's Jew you down. How about we just I don't know. To me, it's do we invent bargaining or something? I don't know. But
Right, right,
yeah,
right.
maybe we're just really good bargainers. I don't know.
Hey, it's funny that you said that. In my earlier career, I'm gonna tell you a story. My earlier career when I was in water treatment, and I was with this company. I don't even want to say the company. I'm not trying to market for them, but I'm with this company, and uh, I sell this unorthodox Jewish man a water filtration system, right? They know by his last name when I bring the paperwork to the office. They know by his last name that he was a, unorthodox Jew. But this was my first time. If you would have told me it was supposed to be hard, like they made it seem like, man, how did you sell him? He's like, how did you do that? And I'm like, when I was there, it was like he was anybody else. I was just telling them, what I feel about the water and my experience on the water. And he signed up. He wanted to get it. He got it for his home. But when I got to the office and I got around one of my friends, Wayne Shapiro, and it was a guy named Barcy, and they were just like, how did you, these guys don't never buy anything. And if it wasn't for them saying that, I would have never known anything about Jewish men being very, hard on trying to, pretty much get persuaded to buy something. I didn't know it, but their response made me seem like it was hard to, get them. And then it was hard for me to get any more. You know what I mean? And I feel like they tainted my whole mentality. You know what I mean?
Right?
Instead of me just having an open mind and not even worrying about who is who, what color is what are you, rich, poor, anything. Just do my thing. And that's was something that always got to me even to this day, because it was like that information was not needed for me to even understand or know. You know what I mean?
Just stereotyping.
Right. People.
That's it.
Yeah.
Now, some people live up to stereotypes, but it doesn't necessarily. What's a stereotype that doesn't involve race that's generally accurate? Screaming lunatic running down the street with a gun, shooting it off, saying, I'm going to kill everybody. I don't care what color you are. And he doesn't care what color I am because he just wants to kill people. So,
Right. Right. Right.
yeah, people get certain stereotypes, certain stigmas. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, some
Yeah.
stereotypes, unfortunately, are true, but I don't know that all stereotypes are true. And when it comes to Jews, I mean, that's like always been the biggest one. Like Jews are cheap, real tight.
Right.
Like,
Right. Right.
like I don't know. I know some guys, that aren't Jewish that are even tighter than the Jews are. I mean,
Yeah. I know some other races. That's all around the board. You know what I mean? So I ain't gonna say it's just a Jewish thing, but there are some, like you say, we can't hold just because, like you said, there are people that feel like they're Jewish, and it's like you said, anybody could be Jewish, right?
yeah,
Anybody.
anybody can be Jewish.
Yeah, it's not like a, I mean, it is a race. It is like actually a race,
Mhm.
but it's weird because anybody can be it. It's like you saying anybody can be black. You know what I mean? Like you just gotta do this and do that, and and you black, and it's like it'll be like, oh no, so yeah,
Yeah,
that's
no, it's true. It's true. Like there's not like a church of blackness that I can go to. Like, hey, I'm gonna follow the steps. How long do I gotta wait?
right,
Does
right.
one come in automatically? You're gonna mess up my tattoos? No, it doesn't work like that. It's yes, Jewish is one of the, I think one of the only, if not the only, religion that is also a race. But
Mm,
not all Jews practice Judaism. You can have Jews that practice Catholicism. You can have Jews that are Christian. You can have Jews that are Muslim.
wow.
So, I mean, you could have Jews that are atheists, just like
Mm,
anybody else.
right, right. They can practice whatever they want. Right.
And if you're not Jewish and you're born Christian, you're born anything but Jewish, you're a Gentile, whatever you want to call it, you
Mhm.
can convert and you can become Jewish.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
we take everybody. We don't yeah. We
No
don't discriminate.
discrimination. Right. Wow. Wow. Well, Max, man, we had an hour, man. This was a great show, man. I appreciate everything. I always love speaking to you, man. It always is a light, and I always learn something. So,
Likewise.
yeah, this was awesome, man. To understand that now that you was an Ice Cube fan, and man, some of your responses is like, wow, I see why you were one of the cool kids in high school, man.
I kept to myself, I had a
Right.
small little group that I chilled with, and we all
Right.
just got along and had each other's backs. But
I can tell, man. I can definitely tell. So, hey, we got to come up with another topic to do something next week, man. We got to keep this rolling. We got to keep this going. Whatever some good topic is, we'll see. We'll keep sending each other some whatever we find that's pretty good, man. You be sending me some great stuff. So keep
likewise,
that going, man, if you don't mind,
sure, absolutely, whatever we can try to do to bridge all these made up nonsensical gaps of
Right.
racism and hatred.
Division
There's
tactics.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's no reason for it, and I'm not saying that racism isn't real, but it's only going to be as real as you want it to be.
Right. Exactly. So, hey, this was a great show, Max. I can't wait for the next one. We're gonna put up another good show for him in the next one. And hey man, make sure y'all subscribe to Max channel, subscribe to my channel. We're gonna keep great information and great content coming to you. And hey, all praise to the Most High. Y'all have a great rest of your day. Salute.
Amen. Amen.
All right, Max, man. Talk to you soon, man. Have a good one.
You too, brother. Thank you.
All right, brother.